London's clean.
Yes, yeah.
Like, there's nothing there. The budgeons are completely stocked in London. Welcome back to the Modern Horror Stories podcast. Yesterday, we talked about Danny Boyle's movie from 2002, 28 Days Later. Today, we're going to be talking about how we could make it better. Kudos always to the people who did make this film. We haven't managed to make one yet, but we're going to be trying soon, I'm sure. However, with all due respect, we're going to try to improve on what 3 of the 4 people here consider a very good movie. Who would like to go first?
I can go first. So most of these things I did mention in the last video. But my first issue is probably the character arc of Selena, where she starts off being this very, very confident, very self-dependent, very don't care about anyone else kind of person. And then very quickly, she kind of somewhere in the middle, like just turn around into being, well, much more less like that and much more like dependent and stuff, which can happen, absolutely. But I just think I would have liked that arch to go a little bit slower rather than just going from one thing to the other quite quickly. And then the other thing I have is the logic around the infected, how there's sometimes like we said yesterday, like Cillian Murphy and Naomi, they are like kissing with blood on his lips. That could have been from like someone infected, obviously, and sometimes there's blood splatting up against them, and I just don't feel like they're worried enough considering what happened to Brendan Gleeson's character. So that was just a little bit of something that just took me out of the plot sometimes, which I felt could have been can be fixed, and then you just don't have to think about that, if you know what I mean. But maybe it was hard to fix, then I don't have any specific ideas, but yeah. And then the final one, it was just a tiny, tiny thing, but it made me a bit icky at the end of the film. And that was when Selena, she's sewing like back together her red dress from, the one that the soldiers made her wear when they were about to like sexually assault her. And then Jim makes like a comment saying like, "Oh, you did look quite good in that one," or something like that. And I know it's meant to be like, now everything's better, we can joke about it, whatever. But to me, it just came off as a little bit tasteless. Like it just was a little bit of an ick to me. And that's pretty much it.
I think that's a fair point. It didn't actually occur to me. But yeah, I think that's very fair. Yes, yeah. Once you said it back to me just then, it made total sense. Yeah. I've got a few things if anyone wants to hear them.
Yes, please.
So I would, and we've mentioned Brendan Gleeson a lot here. I would have liked some more Brendan Gleeson. Now it's very easy to say that I'd like some more Brendan Gleeson, but I've been trying to work out how I'd get Brendan Gleeson back into the film in a way that works. I think the easiest way is probably to introduce him slightly earlier, but that takes away from something in the film. Or my other thought, and this screws up a bit at the end of the film, but maybe could work, is if when Brendan Gleeson is infected and he's shot by the soldiers, maybe they don't fatally kill him and he becomes the Mailer character. And then that way, by the end, when we have Mailer, who is in this case Brendan Gleeson, escape, there is, and ends up killing lots of people, there is kind of a sense of justice to it. At the same time, this is not a film that necessarily needs a sense of justice. It's an incredibly kind of harsh, bleak environment. So would that necessarily work? Mailer being, if they'd taken Brendan Gleeson in, tied him up and used him as for training practices, I'm not sure whether it would work or not. It makes the soldiers obviously evil too early, but there might be a way of going about it. So I'm just going to let that thought kind of percolate in everyone's minds, and hopefully somebody can come up with a good way of getting Brendan Gleeson in there for a little bit longer. One of the things I love the zombies. They're absolutely fantastic. The fast pace. The bits where I was really scared of them was when I saw their shadows or when I saw bits of them. When I saw a whole of a zombie's face, I was much less scared, I think. Um, Maybe the way of getting around this is just, and it might be to do with effects or prosthetics or whatever it is, and just what they had when they were filming it. Um, I wonder if they could have maybe sort of uh, done little shots of, say, a bit of someone's mouth, a bit of a zombie's mouth, or a bit of a zombie's eye, just to kind of focus in on tiny little disgusting details rather than have to focus on a whole zombie that is not necessarily as well constructed as it could be. I think the example that kind of springs to mind is the Reverend zombie or the priest zombie right at the start, the first one that Cillian Murphy encounters. Um, and for whatever reason, the look of that zombie just didn't quite work for me. Um, but I think yes, looking kind of closely into the face of a zombie, into just little kind of buboes or warts or scabs or whatever might be a way of going about it. Um, Teeth as well. I always think teeth in a horror film, if they've really been sort of rotted away and discussed, that can be really visceral. So those are my first two. More Brendan Gleeson, maybe some zombie close-ups. And the other thing is, and I really hate to say this, do something about that first scene. The one where the lab with the activists. And okay, I've got to be very fair here. I love David Schneider. He is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful actor, extremely funny. He plays, if you don't know, he plays the scientist in the first scene who goes, the activist goes, infected with what? And he goes, rage. And it's that scene in it. And I don't know what it is. There's something needs to be done about that scene, and I really don't know. Maybe just cut it completely, or have it kind of scattered throughout the film, sort of slowly revealing bits of that scene. But yeah, there's something to be done. I don't know if anybody agrees with me on that first scene, but we'll see.
Well, let me jump in. I mentioned yesterday I weren't keen on the first scene. I 100% agree with that line with David Schneider. Again, I've seen him live. I've seen him in lots of things. He's a great actor. Not right for this. That first opening scene. 100% agree. I'd put that scene, maybe put that scene as an epilogue right at the end, so we only find out at the very end what started the infection. We can talk about it as an infection. I like the fact they are infected and they're not dead, as in the zombies. But again, this is kind of ripped off of George Romero's films, The Crazies, in which they're infected. So again, another homage there. So I would change that scene. I'd move that to the end. Also, I just want to say I love your idea about Brendan Gleeson becoming Mailer. I think that is so much better. I think it takes away the kind of direct connection to Day of the Dead, where they use the soldier in the same way. I think you could extend the time period of the movie. This is my second change. Extend it a bit more to give it a bit more breathing space, which I think would allow some of the more things that I feel uncomfortable with, like and I agree with Rosanna about the character arcs. I think they could become more believable with a bit more time. And it would be such a great surprise to find out they've got Brendan Gleeson chained out outside. Oh, I think that would be a brilliant move, Alex. I really think that's great. And the last thing would just be just a general review of all the logic. So, for instance, when they approach Manchester, it's on fire. The whole city is on fire.
Yes.
And they say in a matter of fact way, well, they've not had fire engines for 4 weeks. I'm like, what about London? London's clean.
Yes, yeah.
Like, there's nothing there. The budgeons are completely stocked in London. So I'd clean up the logic a little bit. They're my three things.
I mean, it's big up to Budgeons for keeping the store so tidy in the midst of an apocalypse.
I
But
was because I loved the various bits of product placement in this film. Someone hands someone a box of Maltesers, and there's like a 1 second kind of like holding on the box of Maltesers.
There was a lot of Pepsi as well. But yeah, like going back to Brendan Gleeson taking on that sort of the role that Mailer did, that's such a great idea. Yeah, I think it would be amazing. On my three improvements, a couple of them have been mentioned already. So one of them is that opening sequence. It didn't feel very real, that whole first thing, which compared to the rest of the film is quite a contrast. And I was also a bit worried about the chimpanzees, and I hope they're okay. But it wasn't nice to see apes in cages sort of screaming and rocking and tied to tables and things like that. Like, I'm sure they took great care of them, but it was still quite disturbing to see as an audience member rather than as a it was still disturbing to see outside of the story of the film. Like, it took me out of the film worrying about the apes. And another change I would make is, it's a really small one, but one of my favorite sequences is the opening sequence in London, which Dave, you say is very clean, but I quite like that it was relatively clean because it kept the mystery for Jim. Like, it's just, and for us as well, it's like, what the heck is going on? There's just literally no one around. It keeps us guessing. It keeps Jim guessing. I also loved that our hero of the film doesn't look anything like a traditional movie hero. Like, half his head's shaved. He's wearing bedraggled, like, non-fitting clothing, and he's carrying a little plastic bag. And like, it's so, like, what an introduction to somebody who's gonna later become a killer to protect people. And but yes, the one of my favorite things about it is the silence, as he's like, there's no music, there's just him going around the streets, and it adds to the feel of it. And there's the tiny change I would make is there's a car alarm that goes off when he's rattling with it, but at that point the music has already come in. But if that alarm had come in pure silence, it would have been a jump scare for us as well as for him. Maybe you don't need that. Maybe that's too gimmicky, but I feel like it would have been nice to have the silence pierced by a sort of everyday sound that we hear and just blends into the background usually, but that would be so overwhelming in a silent London, especially where it was surrounded by the tall buildings. And yeah, so that's another change. And the other change is, Rosanna brought it up yesterday, and is the reaction to blood being all over everyone and everything was so minimal. Like that scene in Jim's parents' house when like I can understand why they're not all dressed up and geared up for battle, because they were just asleep at home, but and the zombies burst in. But yeah, afterwards when there's blood everywhere and she's just like, clean that off or something, and not like, holy fuck, like there's blood everywhere. We need to move very carefully, make sure none of it like dribbles down or anything. Don't try not to inhale, like whatever. Like you said, there was just zero caution, and that took me out of the film, because I was just thinking it just doesn't fit with what we've been watching.
I wonder if I wonder if they tried the car alarm without the music, because I think you're right. It without looking at it, I think that would be a great jump scare.
Also, that music was so good, the way it just built and built and built as he was exploring all of this.
Because we haven't really
Yeah.
discussed the music so far, or we didn't in the last podcast anyway, but it's definitely worth us mentioning. The music in this is absolutely fantastic.
And there's an iconic piece of music which is repeated in the second movie. And I was listening to it on YouTube, and all the comments are under the music were, this isn't in the third movie. Don't go and see the third movie. The music's different in the third movie. It's great music. It's great music.
Yeah, I've heard the same complaint from people saying that the music, it's not in the third film, it's not in the third film. I'm going to watch the third film as its own thing. I'm going to try and and luckily, because I've only just watched the first film, I don't have years and years and years of fandom to sort of have riled me up and made me really angry about the possibility of not having a particular bit of music in a film. So I'll be able to, I think, emotionally separate myself from the lack of that particular song.
I think, Alex, your emotional resilience is one of the things that you really bring to this podcast.
I'm going to put out my CV. But I'm just going to write that down.
Yeah, you're immune to the whims and the winds of change in the movie franchise landscape.
And what can I say? I'm a man for all seasons.
So on that note, we'll wrap up this podcast. Join us next week when we'll be talking about the sequel, which is 28 weeks later. Hope to see you then. I always like these better than the first one.
Oh, interesting. It does feel more sort of relaxed in a way.
It does. I mean, when someone comes up with an idea like Alex and Brendan Gleeson and Mailer, that I just can feel the excitement.
Yeah.
It's very good.
And people's ideas are so good.
Yeah.
We should make a film.
Yeah. I'm
You
much better
should.
at criticizing other people's films than improving my own, though, is my main worry.